Hi, everybody. Hey. All right, hang on. Just going to jump in here. Here we go. Fingers crossed. There we go. All right, everybody say something for God's sakes.
Something for God's sakes.
Oh, all right. And we see each other?
Yes.
Yes, I see Dan.
Hooray! We did it. Oh, my God. This might be the first time we've ever all gotten it spot on from the first time. 13th the charm. Your 13th episode. And I thought, 13 colonies, 13
colonies.
stripes on the old flag there.
Oh, well done.
Yeah, right. And I'm wearing my tricorn here, which any honest fan of history that has ever been to colonial Williamsburg and didn't come home with at least one of these, and to be honest, like my family came home with two, one for me, one for my brother, and I regret that my parents, at that time it was my parents, but I regret that I hadn't saved enough money as a child to buy the hat that I really wanted.
Oh.
And of course those go up into the stratosphere as far as like fanciness and cost.
Yeah.
But as you guys can see, my shelves are empty because I'm moving soon, which is a drag. So I wanted to announce that after our 13th episode, 13 straight weeks of doing this, we're going to take a break for the 4th of July. For the holiday weekend, give myself a chance to move into my new place and make sure that all the cool shit's nailed to my wall so that we can start anew. But it's great to see you guys.
Yes.
This episode is one of those that we're just like, we don't want to. By the way, the Wonder Woman. Let's see the bottom. Let's see the bottom. Amazing. Very
Shout out to my
patriotic,
sister
very nice.
Carrie for sending me that for my birthday. She got me my first pair of Wonder Woman underoos when I was a kid.
There you go.
And I wore those underoos till they fell off. And so this is my adult underoos.
I think all of us had those underoos that we wore till they fell apart. Superman underoos. I almost, like, part of me like remembers, because I got them in the U.S. when my family went to visit my grandma in San Jose, and then took them back to Mexico. So obviously, Superman underoos in Mexico. I mean, I was almost elected president.
Yeah, I'm surprised you weren't carrying.
Yeah. I mean, that was
hero.
the thing, right? Like all of the U.S. imports that I'd bring back with me as a kid were like super valuable. And so like all the Star Wars toys, like I'd be the first kid in Mexico with like the Ewok village, hot stuff. Yeah. So anyway, sorry, underoos, Superman underoos, wore them to the supermarket frequently. And my mom she just walked me around with
they were the best, right?
With a towel cape and
cape.
t-shirt and the matching underoos.
Do you remember and they came in the box, like it was almost like a
Nice.
LP slip, right?
Yeah. They still are, and they make them for adults now. Just so you guys know, I've been kind of anyway.
Trust.
I'm a creep.
You are amongst friends with that.
So today's that clip that we saw was from a Bugs Bunny, Yosemite Sam, Revolutionary War, Looney Tunes clip, and I think it's so classic that, I mean, Looney Tunes, everybody, like in the U.S., in the same way that North Korea is obsessed with it, in the same way we do the apotheosis of Washington, we're obsessed with our own history, and we feel this necessity to elevate it and to make it something that it's not. And that elevation and that deification takes different forms at different times in history. And what I want to and so this entire episode is about movies that show American history or that relate American history in one way or another. And I do want to point out that most of these movies are movies that kids who grew up in the 90s, 80s, and 90s would probably be into. So I think I just want to kind of put that caveat on that. I did make an effort to bring you guys like a really like a deep cut movie, but we're going to do this chronologically. So we're going to follow history in a chronological way, and the first movie and the first person that brought a movie in was Dan, and Dan's wife insisted, like the spouses have such power over the show, right? Like my wife are like extra characters on this whole thing. So Dan's wife insisted that Last of the Mohicans had to be in here because it's one of her favorite movies. And I was thinking, like, do we show a clip of Daniel Day-Lewis? Do we show the official trailer? And I found this incredible clipping, like set of clips on YouTube, and it is literally Daniel Day-Lewis and his hair running through the woods. So I think
the whole movie is just running.
Yeah, it is. It's an exhausting movie to watch.
Him running.
Yeah, it is. It is. And as you guys can see, like the music, it starts with Daniel Day-Lewis running through the woods.
Right.
I mean, and I believe that to train for this sequence, he became a tree for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
You may have heard different news, but I had heard that he got this role and immediately started sleeping outside, like eschewed
I'm sure.
modernity, eschewed modern life altogether, and started to learn to live outdoors as though he were already there. I heard that.
Right.
And it makes sense. He's that actor, right?
He's like that guy.
And I'd just like to point out this scene, holy smokes, right? But here he is running through a battle scene. Like it's just a whole bunch of like running. Visually, it is an epic movie, which makes sense because the book is epic.
Right.
Dan, you picked the movie. I'm gonna mute this while we see the glory that is Daniel Day-Lewis running.
This is a top film.
It's a great movie. So Dan, talk us through this
movie.
This particular version, it's grown on me a lot. It's an intense movie. It's brutal, and I think it's a classic legend now. The whole Last Mohican legend by some James Fenimore Cooper is like it's a legend that's become a legend, and it's usually it's this really brutal story, but like some of the older versions are much more. They're still tough, but like this one I think does the best job of like showing how brutal sort of frontier, like the colonial frontier was, and the French Indian War, 7 Years' War.
Yeah. And so the French and Indian War. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the French and Indian War, so that we can kind of like go like, okay, that's why that makes sense.
So the French and Indian War fought. It's called the 7 Years' War in Europe. There's some grounds to say it was the First World War. It was fought in Europe. It was fought in North America, and it was fought in India between the French and the English over control of their colonial empires. It's called the French and Indian War here because the British and the American colonists and their Native American allies fought the French and their Native American allies.
Right.
So we get the French and Indian War. It was fought in Canada and sort of New England and New York, which is where this is supposed to take place. And it ended up with France losing their North American empire, really, and the British taking over. And it ends in 1763, and it really sets the grounds for the Revolution in the 1770s. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal in American history.
It is a big deal in American history, and I think that this movie in particular really captures the idea of these two European global powers fighting in this wild-ass frontier. And the characters, the indigenous characters in the original novel, like they're part of this like romantic reawakening of like the native man as being like true to nature, and this idea of nature boy and the nature man being like much more in touch. Like you see Walt Whitman and a lot of these American writers who were into that idea of like going back to nature. And so in a lot of the versions of this, the indigenous peoples are, and frankly, this whole story does a romanticization of like indigenous peoples surrounding this whole scene. But what I think this recreation does, Dan, and just allow me to hijack this for a sec, it does give us a real visual representation of the frontier, of indigenous culture, of British and French, you know, like that European audacity of fighting their ridiculous wars with their ridiculous clothes in you know, in the wilds of America. I mean, I think this movie more than any captures that.
Yeah, and well, just the whole story of Hawkeye, right? Daniel Day-Lewis's character is, you know, this is a Western, right? It's actually a Western, or as we think of it, a Western. It takes place on the old frontier.
Right.
You have the nature against civilization, and then you've got Hawkeye, who is a white adopted son.
Right, Nathaniel Natty
right?
Bumpo is
right,
and
there's this thing, right? So he can move between these different cultures, right? And that's sort of it sets it up, right? The book's written in the 1820s, but it sets up the what becomes the Western
expansion, yeah. And this is, and Brass, I saw you kind of go like, is it really a Western?
Only because of geography, I thought this took place on the East Coast.
It does. It's a Western in that it's on the frontier.
It's a genre Western. Pew pew.
Right.
Yeah. Located on the coast.
Thematically, it's a Western.
Okay.
Yeah, it takes place in New York, but like the
themes. And this is the frontier, right? Like this is like the wilderness, which is like this scene right here. This scene that this picture is from, this is the British like garrison at a fort surrendering to the French. And what really captured my imagination about this movie and this scene in particular, and the one that precedes it, is that there's this massive fight going on. And if you look in the background, that's the Hudson Valley, and it is just pristine. Like there's nothing there. It's literally two European powers going at it, and nature and indigenous people going like, what is happening? Which brings me to one of the most amazing and most powerful performances in this. You know who I'm going to talk about, Dan?
Magua?
Of course.
Yeah.
Wes
I love this actor.
Amazing.
Yeah,
I love Wes.
Just got goosebumps.
Yeah, he's power. Look.
I mean,
right? He's the bad guy in this, but he's he's sympathetic. You feel bad for what happened to him, and you understand his rage.
Yeah.
And I think, like, I feel like within the pantheon of indigenous performances, Wes Studi's performance as Magua in this movie, it managed to funnel the rage of indigenous cultures into this thing. And this moment in particular that I decided to put the picture of, I believe the line is, "Know this before you die, gray hair. Magua will eat your heart and wipe your seed from the earth." And then he rips the beating heart out of the chest of the British colonel and takes a bite of it. I mean, that scene alone is worthwhile. But Magua's arc in this is just absolutely incredible. And I think last year, Wes Studi got an Oscar for his lifetime achievement of work. But because he Geronimo, he's been it in so many films. Dances with Wolves, we'll see later. There's actually two indigenous characters, two indigenous actors that both star in two of the movies that we're going to cover today. Graham Greene, exactly. Right. Yeah. And so I mean, again,
I mean,
like the
how about the
portrayal,
scene at Cora's suicide?
Um,
The Cora or Alice
right?
that jumps off the cliff, and then when he's like just doing the hand
Yeah, he's
gestures.
just like, what? Like, you're not going to
Is it-
jump, are you? And
yeah,
I mean, and again, like speaking of how Nathaniel, how he straddles these two worlds. Wes Studi, as an actor, straddles these two worlds, and he was able to bring that indigenous point of view to the portrayal of this character in a way that, like, to me, like it really stirs up emotions. Because you see the anger and the disappointment and the cultural disconnection. You're totally right, Dan. When he goes like, "Come on," and she's just like, like there's confusion in him as to what she's thinking, because it's inconceivable to someone of an indigenous upbringing that this was the honorable decision for her. So I mean, amazing film, amazing portrayal of the Western frontier prior to the Declaration of Independence,
right.
and prior to the United States being the United States, and incredible indigenous portrayals. Also, something that helps me out with this movie, that I can watch it multiple times with my wife, is that it's a hell of a romantic story too.
Mm-hmm.
It's Daniel Day-Lewis being super passionate, super intense, and this again, these worlds, this love, like the whole thing, like it's a great story. And I don't know that the book itself and that the story itself would continue the way it has had it not been for this interpretation.
Yeah, I mean, Mark Twain hated James Fenimore Cooper. Roger Ebert gave this 3 stars and said it's a great movie, so much better than the nearly unreadable novel it's based off of. So, yeah, this movie is this particular version has kept it alive. And let's be honest, the soundtrack is amazing.
Yeah, the soundtrack is incredible.
Right?
Incredible. Yeah.
Good
kickoff movie. Yeah. So I think all three of us can agree that this is a has it all film. I think basically this and Romancing the Stone are as close as we can get to two movies that my wife and I can watch over and over and over.
Romancing the Stone. I thought I was having a
I just, it's got action, it's got adventure, it's got romance, it's got
There's
Sarah loves it. Sarah loves it too.
Yeah, it's a great movie. It's a great movie. Good film to bring to the table. All right, so I'm gonna jump then into my first movie here, and it's a wild one, because it's really not well known. So the name of this movie is called Sons of Liberty, and it is from 1939. Okay, so let's just really quickly think about what is happening in the world in 1939. What's happening? Right? So, the U.S. hadn't entered the war yet.
Yeah.
Right. I'm interested. So 1939. I've never seen this. Mm-hmm. I've never even heard of it until you brought it up. But another movie came out in like 1939, Drums Along the Mohawk, by John Ford. The bad guys were American Tories, American loyalists, and Native Americans. He wouldn't show the British soldiers as bad guys because they were fighting.
Because what was going on in the war.
Yeah.
So this movie was made by Warner Brothers. The Warners, a famous Jewish entertainment family. Mm-hmm. Sons of Liberty was done in 1939. It's a 20-minute filmette, and it is about Haim Solomon, who was one of the founding fathers, Jewish founding father, who helped finance the rebels during the Revolutionary War. And basically what Warner Brothers did was they hired Claude Rains, who was it's basically Olivier and Claude Rains are, I want to say that Claude Rains taught Olivier. I want to say they were of the same same Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts school. And Claude Rains plays Haim Solomon in this, and I think this movie just is so of its time, and it uses the Declaration of Independence and the American Revolution as an allegory and as a reminder that plurality and diversity are founding themes of this country. And they wanted to reinforce that through the lens of Judaism because it was important at a time when anti-Semitism was raging in Europe. So I'm going to show you guys this clip, and I want you guys to think about what I just said and about how what's going on in Europe as this is happening. So hang on just a second. I'm going to pull this in, and God willing, it goes at the exact moment that I wanted it to. Yeah, here we go. All right.
Proclaim liberty throughout the land. Not to the inhabitants thereof.
All right. Check this out.
British know everything. British know my time. They know everything. The rest of you like the world, yes. The global guard is fighting my heels. Get this lesson to General Washington. Find him in camp on the main road. Get this lesson to General Washington. You'll find him in camp on the main road.
Jewish family. People at the door.
Open the door and make it go.
Hiding people under the floor.
Wow.
Soldiers come into the house. They start looking for folks. They tear the place apart, and they're hiding the person underneath the floorboards there. It is. Right. I don't think it gets any more obvious as to what the purpose of this film was, other than to remind Americans that what was going on overseas was un-American, and that in the United States we hide those who are persecuted unfairly. That we resist. We resist the people who are out there to oppress. And I think that it was 20 minutes. It's a short. And it won an Academy Award for best short subject film in 1939. And the director was the director of Casablanca.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, it has star power, right? Michael Curtis. Curtis. And it's 20 minutes long. And here's the thing, and I'll post this on the Facebook page, but the entire thing is available on YouTube for anybody to watch. And I think that when we think about the U.S. and we think about what speaks to whom and how it's portrayed, I think it being of its time, you can see how certain aspects of our history speak to us at certain moments in time. And how important was it for Warner to put together this film? They slapped it together. Here, let me try and I might have totally pushed away that here we go. So I'm just going to read from the poster so you guys see what the reviews were for this. So one of them, Emmanuel Publications. Let it be known here now that Sons of Liberty is the finest short made by anyone, anywhere. It is more entertaining than 90% of full-length features, right? Motion picture, a feature in everything but length. There has never been a short subject of finer merit. Advertise it as a big feature. Showman's Trade Review. And then how they advertised it was Warner Brothers produced it like a feature. Warner Brothers promoted it like a feature, right? Like there's the sense of urgency to this film that I think is really important. And Michael Curtiz, who was the director, also directed Run. So a big director, a big star, and big money into this, and said it just needs to be 20 minutes long, but we got to make this, and we got to make it quick. And I think here's one more thing. Veterans of foreign wars. Our organization will cooperate to the limit our facilities in focusing the public's attention to it. They pulled out all the stops to make sure that Sons of Liberty was something that was seen and advertised and was out there. And while we may forget it as a somewhat like ham-fisted like representation of what actual history is, there's no films made about Haym Salomon out there. There are statues to Haym Salomon in Los Angeles. There's a statue to Haym Salomon in Pan Pacific Park. Which I think is interesting. You don't see a lot of founding father statues in Los Angeles, but there is one right there in what is like a heavily Jewish community. And I think that just Warner Brothers sort of panicked. And you got to think Warner Brothers did Casablanca, or did they? I think Warner Brothers did Casablanca.
I think so.
Warner Brothers did Casablanca. Warner Brothers also did the next movie that I'm going to jump in on here, but like I just think it's amazing that like.
So, one thing that I think is interesting about this is you brought it up about Solomon and not known. Most of the Jewish people in the United States at that time were fairly recent, right?
Yeah.
From like the 1890s through the early 20th century. But I think there's something here about Jack Warner or the Warner Brothers trying to show the WASP community that the Jews have always been in America, and the important role that they actually had in the revolution, right? Like George Washington, the Touro Synagogue in Newport, Rhode Island, it's the oldest synagogue in the United States, was visited by George Washington, and he wrote a letter.
They mentioned that in the movie,
right? And he writes he wrote this very like heartfelt letter for thanking them for their help during the revolution. So he's tying back in that like the Jewish people are not like these new immigrants, right? They've always been part of the American story.
And I think you think of that when you think about like movements today. Like I relish Latino participation and Mexican participation in World War I, World War II, like in the forming of California. One of my favorite California like characters is Pio Pico, who was the first like governor of California, and then he was the governor of the California Republic, and then he was like a city councilman for LA, and he's just this ornery like Latino like dude. And I love him to death because he's a great character, but also he's a Mexican in California, like sort of trying to figure out his identity and in his own way shaped what the state is. I relish those things, and I can see how important that doing away with that sense of otherness was at that point in time, because that sense of otherness was being weaponized against the Jewish community in Europe. So I mean, it's a great 20-minute watch. That's the best part about Sons of Liberty. It goes by like that. It hits all the points, and you're just like, okay, that was a fun Technicolor propagandish sort of telling of this little facet of the American Revolution through the very, very urgent eyes of Warner Brothers in 1939. So that was my first thing that I bring to the table, and then I watched this yesterday to remind myself why I picked this with my wife. And the next thing, we're going to watch the full trailer, because I think we need to watch the full trailer to kind of capture this. But this movie is 1985's Revolution. And I just want to say that Al Pacino came off of Scarface when he did this. So just think of Scarface time, Al Pacino, badass, right? Like very like oh, say hello, right? Lot of accents. And then he went in and did this sort of uneducated American colonist New York accent, which for all we know is accurate, but coming out of Pacino's mouth, he got slammed for it. And so I'm just gonna say that Al Pacino had to take 4 years off of acting after he did this because the reviews were so negative. But this movie has a lot of redemptive like stuff to it. So let's just watch the trailer, and we can go through that. And of course, Donald Sutherland plays the super bad guy, and he is awesomely awful, like awesomely terrible. Like you're just like, damn, dude, the British suck. So let's just watch the full thing here.
All these men here, we all fought for something.
You take it from us, and we're going to fight again.
He was a common man, forced into war, fighting to protect his son.
Sons go to war because fathers don't. Because fathers hated war!
She was a woman of wealth and privilege, with everything to live for and everything to lose.
You cannot belong to this family and fight on the other side.
Joan Plowright plays the mom.
When the old world was dying, and a country was being born. It was the time of a revolution. Now, from Erwin Winkler, the producer of Rocky, and Hugh Hudson, the director of Chariots of Fire and Grayso, comes a story of love and courage. Al Pacino. Revolution, starring Donald Sutherland and Masasi Kinski.
Woo!
You know what I was noticing when we were watching that? You know how there's the Old West font? There's also like the Revolutionary.
There is the Revolution font.
Right? It's the same, everything
it's
is
the
same.
Declaration of Independence font. Where they do the S that looks like an F.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So I mean, a few things. Number one, did anybody notice how we don't narrate? We don't do the weird narrator anymore on our previews. We assume the audience
in front of horror movies all the time.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So this movie, you guys noticed like that the entire movie, that scene where they're pulling down the statue of King George, like when I saw that, I was like, right, like, oh my God. So the whole movie begins with the pulling down of the statue of King George.
Right.
And that scene leads directly into looting and rioting.
Right. Well, I've been thinking, Americans have always had a love affair with tearing down statues.
Yeah, we tore down the Saddam Hussein statue.
That's, oh my God.
Yeah, it's in our because of that. Because the taking down of the King George statues was such a moment, a psychological moment in our country's like growth that like I think the reason it's resonating is because A, we want to do that, right? We want to tear down symbols of oppression, but B, for the people that don't consider them symbols of oppression, their animal brain is hearkening back to our collective moment of independence where we're like, wait, I'm not the tyrant. I'm not King George. Why are they tearing down my statue? And I think that like this movie can best be described in one word: chaos. It It's fucking chaos. Like from the moment they take down the statue, Tonya, my wife, said it reminded her of 1917 in the sense that it is not the story of a person going through. It's not the person, like, it's not a story, it's not a journey of a person, but rather how a person dealt with the events happening to them. And I think that's why the chaotic nature of this movie kind of really speaks to me, because history is chaotic until after it's happened, and we can look back and go like, okay, that was a pivotal moment, that was a pivotal moment, that was a pivotal moment. But as it's happening, go ahead, Dan.
No, what's interesting probably about this movie, and I haven't seen it, but you talk about the chaos, sort of a change, from like the 1960s onward in like historical films and westerns and all of it is things get darker and maybe a little more accurate. Like the Revolution was not all like powdered wigs and prim and proper.
Right. It wasn't the Chaim Solomon
right.
Chaim Solomon story.
It was.
You know?
I mean, it was. 8 years of complete chaos that destroyed families and communities and lives. Like it wasn't Disney. It wasn't the Disney.
Yeah, version. It wasn't. And I think this movie did a really good job of capturing that. I mean, we look here at Pacino, some of the hearkening to the wild man, right? And in this movie, he actually does he does join a group of Native Americans and becomes part of their team as a scout. So I think that's kind of interesting. The movie's messy. Like it's not an easy watch. But it does have these moments of greatness, and I think for any fan of history, it's worth a watch. So I do want to point out like the headband on Pacino, right?
The mullet.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so let's take a moment and think about the visuals here of Pacino as the revolutionary with the headband, the choice of Pacino as the revolutionary, right? Like at this point, Pacino was known for like being the extra, right? Like there's conventional Hollywood, and then there was Pacino, right? And so you see him as the revolutionary. I think that's pretty incredible. Here's some other interesting casting choices that I think that will kind of blow your mind. So let's get rid of Al here. Natasha Kinski as my revolutionary dream girl here. Like what a mess, but also like, she's wearing like the jacket of a captain. That like the whole story is incredible, and her arc is actually like pretty awesome. Like she comes from a family, like a rich family in New York, and then she joins the rebels and goes through this whole thing. And she's pretty great in it actually. And Natasha Kinski, not nearly enough out there of her work. But then here's a weird one. Annie Lennox.
Okay.
Yeah, she plays like a revolutionary prostitute, I think is really the best.
An American accent or a Scottish?
Americanish accent. Like everybody has an Americanish accent. Like the accents are all over the place in this.
Wow.
Except the British accent. Because the British accents are very cartoonish. And I think if this film fails historically in any way, it's making the British villains a little too cartoony. So let's get rid of that and let's go to
shock. Annie Lennox is a shock.
So this is Donald Sutherland as the sergeant major in the British sergeant major, and I think there's something here that like really calls out to you about Donald Sutherland's face in this, and it's that mole.
Oh, I thought that was I didn't know that was in the
It's a mole, and it's not just a mole. Like it's like that big. It's right here, and I think this picture kind of, you can see it a little bit closer, but it's hairy. It's a giant hairy mole, and they gave that to him, and he is this kind of heartless, unfeeling, mean, British soldier, and his child gets shot, and he's, oh shit, I just gave it away. Whatever, you're not missing anything. And he's really heartless, and he's like, "There it is, son. Stay with me, son. Here we go, son." And that's kind of the entire movie. He's like, "I'm going to whip you and do horrible things to you, and I don't care because I'm an unfeeling British." So that's that character. And then all of the British soldiers are all like basically one step away from bayoneting babies, which is kind of a little bit of a failure. You're dehumanizing the enemy, which I get it. Like in the U.S., I think Eddie Izzard mentions pretty frequently that all of our villains have English accents, and that probably has to do with the Revolutionary War. But this movie really takes it a little extra further. And this character in particular, yeah. So all of the British officers have white powdered wigs, heavy makeup, blush, lipstick, and beauty marks. And they all speak with lisps. And they all have, "Hello, how I say," and they all have those nasal accents. And I have to say that for a film that like captures the grit and kind of nastiness of the revolution, the cartoonish Brits in this totally throw the damn thing off. So this movie cost, I think, $10 million to make. It made $300,000 in the box office. It tanked. Al Pacino stopped acting for 4 years after this. People just they were awful about it. But it does give you some really good, dirty, gritty visuals that maybe previous Revolutionary War depictions hadn't given us. And I remember this movie when I was a kid. Like I think it was on HBO a few times, and I caught parts of it, and I was also always like, I'm confused, but I love the visuals here. And as an adult now, I'm looking at it. And after watching it yesterday, I can honestly say I'm confused, but I love the visuals here. So that's my second movie, which I think, and I did mine back to back because they were, we're doing them, and I chose both Revolutionary War films because, as we know from our Korea stuff, like how a country depicts its birth and its key moment, right? It says a lot about who we are at any given moment. Just like 1939 said a lot about that story about Haym Solomon and how we wanted to perceive ourselves. This says a lot about how we perceive ourselves in the 80s, that we were rough and dirty, and formed, we have it wasn't all pretty. And this definitely highlights a lot of it. And again, spoiler alert for anybody who's going to watch it, which I assume is nobody except this team. Spoiler alert: at the end, the character of, I think it's like Tom Todd, or I don't even remember. Like it's a very basic name, but Pacino's character gets ripped off by the new government. He's not given his due, which is very historically accurate, but it just says, it just kind of gives the story about nothing is perfect. It wasn't a perfect transition from British rule to US rule. And a lot of people got messed up in between. Kids got hurt, families got separated. And I think like ultimately we hadn't seen a telling of that, and maybe we kind of still haven't seen a telling of the Revolutionary War through the eyes of the everyman. And so until somebody tells a better version of it, what we have is, oh, God bless General Washington.
Chaos!
Chaos. The war is chaos. The British are coming. I'm a Native American captain.
King George is an absentee hoo-ha!
An absentee landlord. There you go.
I'm sorry.
All British officers smell vaguely of shit. Oh. All right. So that was those were my two Revolutionary War films.
Deep cuts. You got some deep cuts.
I do. I did bring deep cuts to it just because, like, I know that I mean, what aren't deep cuts with the Revolutionary War? I think it's something that people insist on making movies about, and people continually refuse to go see them. I think, I want to say it's an honorable mention, but it's a dishonorable mention because of who's involved in it. But The Patriot with Mel Gibson does an okay job at painting the revolution and stuff like that. But being full-fledged members of cancel culture when it comes to racist anti-Semites, I think that just the fact that I mentioned it is enough. So don't go see that. Watch, slog through Revolution with Al Pacino. Just get high, drink some bourbon, which is what I'm drinking, by the way.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm drinking a.
I see we learned nothing from last week.
No, nothing. Henry McKenna, 10-year aged bourbon from Louisville, Kentucky. A great.
Hey.
From my friend Kara Hicks.
Oh,
yeah, you guys.
29th. There's our December 29th club.
There you go. Yeah, December 29th. That club. So yeah. Any thoughts on American Revolution and how it's portrayed in film, and any honorable mentions before we move on?
Well, my favorite is the John Adams miniseries.
Oh yeah, the John Adams miniseries, HBO. Oh, and let's face it, Dan. John Adams is the best founding father.
Yeah, he's an interesting little fellow.
So wait, like I don't feel your enthusiasm for John Adams as the best founding father here. I need to hear your
No. I like him. Yeah, he was. He's not. I don't like to say any of them was the best.
Yes, you do. Choose now.
Choose, yeah. What is it? Haim Solomon? It's okay if it's Haim Solomon.
Maybe
No. John Adams lived his principles the best out of all of them.
Okay, so
that's and he was very cantankerous.
Okay, circle of trust, Dan.
So I like his personality.
Circle of trust. We won't judge you. It's just between the three of us here and anybody who happens to watch. Is there somebody else?
No, I don't have no. What I'm saying, I'm sorry. I don't mean to be so mysterious. I don't have a favorite.
I mean, look, Thomas Jefferson was kind of cool. He was pretty learned. He liked food.
No, I like John Adams. I mean, to me, the smartest. We're really going off track here. The smartest of the group was probably James Madison.
Oh, really?
The smartest.
Smarter than Ben Franklin?
Franklin, no, you're mistaking. Okay, Ben Franklin was a different kind of smart. Like, Ben Franklin was smart, don't get me wrong, but Ben Franklin was celebrity smart.
Oh, was he kind of a mad genius smart that like nobody wanted him?
I think he was marketing smart.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
Ben Franklin I didn't know much about John Adams.
Celebrities, right?
Before.
Yeah.
I like John Adams. I think he's great.
Yeah, John Adams. I love Ben Franklin too, though. Ben Franklin, abolitionist, real horny dog.
He was kind of nut. I like.
Yeah, he was a total nut. Like we should actually do.
Turkey nominated as our national.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like that's and. I mean, Ben Franklin, turkey for the national bird, like science experiments, like played bowls, like just kind of a weirdo, but also like knew how to make that weirdness like work for him to the point where he is on the $100 bill and he never held office. He never held like a federal office. So, except Postmaster.
Well,
Right.
do we not consider him then a proper founding father?
No,
He's a bit
100% he was a proper founding father.
John Adams was the most honest about the whole situation. Like, he
Yeah,
was
I agree.
very much against the deification that even he saw towards the end of his life. But as he said,
Yeah.
like, you would think that George Washington appeared out of the ground on a horse and smote the entire British army with a lightning bolt.
With a lightning bolt from Benjamin Franklin's lightning rod. That was the thing. He mentioned the two celebrities, like the two people that, like, I guess this all just magically happened with Ben Franklin's electricity and George Washington's horse. Yeah, and that's why I love John Adams so much. He did and said things like that. Okay, so let's move on to the next movie, which I think we're all going to be super excited about, and we can talk about for hours in and of itself. But let's watch this specific scene from Gangs of New York.
Oh!
Bowery boys.
Man, this movie.
The 5 Points, Paradise Square. Streets here are always lively of an evening.
Who are the gangs around now?
We got the Daybreak Boys and the Swamp Angels. They work the river looting ships. The Frog Hollow Shanghai sailors down around the Bloody Angle. Short Tales was rough for a while, but they become a bunch of jack-rolling dandies, lollering around Murderer's Alley looking like Chinamen. Hellcat Maggie, she tried to open her own grog shop, but she drunk up all her own liquor and got thrown out on the street.
Beautiful.
Now she's on the lay for anything. There's the Plug Uglies, they're from somewhere deep in the old country. Got their own language, no one understands what they're saying. They love to fight the cops. And the Nightwalkers and Rat Pickers roll. They work on their backs and kill with their hands. They're so scurvy under the Plug Uglies to talk to them. But who knows what they're saying. The Slaughterhousers and the Broadway Twisters, they're a fine bunch of bingo boys. And the Little 40 Thieves. I used to run with them for a while, till they got took over by Benjer the Cockroach and his red-eyed buggers. Benjer carries a germ. If you try to leave the gang, they say he hacks up blood on you.
The late sisters are nothing but a bunch of rapacious grab-ups.
The true blue Americans call themselves a gang, but all they really do is stand around on corners damning England.
One word that the British say.
Did any of them got the sand of the dead rabbits?
You don't say that name. That name died with you. They've been outlawed.
I was in the blockhouse. The Chinks told me that the natives celebrate their victory every year. Is that true?
Aye, that they do. It's quite the affair. Butcher himself's got to invite you and you don't go.
Yeah, right? I know. We see you. All right. So and I chose that clip specifically because it kind of shows us the world around the 5 Points in New York. But Dan, you picked this movie. Talk to us about why you picked this movie.
It's one of my favorite movies, for one thing. It's fantastic, and it really does a good job of like putting you in the world, right? And it's starting to. I like it because it's not totally or very even close, really historically accurate. Most of it's kind of fictional, but it does a good job of like putting you in the world. It introduces you to like a lot of the elements in American culture at the time, right? And like how many pre-Civil War movies can you think of that like depict New York, right? They're all antebellum Southern movies.
Right. And I think that like you hit the nail on the head, right? Like I got to tell you, like I almost picked Sleepy Hollow as one of my movies, the one with Johnny Depp and the Tim Burton Sleepy Hollow, and it's because it's one of the few interpretations of a post-American Revolution, like immediately post-American Revolution United States, in upstate New York, where a lot of it is still, it's still farm country, it's still wilderness. and it shows just kind of the dynamics of like Dutch farmers and British sort of still remnants of British rule and British government. So you're right. Like, it's few and far between when you think that I almost went with Sleepy Hollow, and I think this one does an incredible job of sort of showing how toxic the nativist identity can be, and that is in the shape of Bill the Butcher.
Right. Well, and we're seeing like these new strains of moving away from just this idea of just the white Anglo-Saxon Protestants of the Revolutionary era. Like, you're seeing all of the different strains, mass immigration now, all of these different strains that'll start to influence American culture through today, right? It's the beginning of like modern America.
Yeah, and Brass, sorry. Wait, Brassy, sorry. Say again?
The melting pot that we think we are was demonstrated here.
Right.
Maybe.
Right. And I do think that Scorsese, who directed this movie, he has a tendency towards the romanticization, especially of New York. But I do think that he captures some important divisions here, like really, really well. And I think that it plays as an interesting interlude to traditional Civil War narratives to see just how divided the country was, even within the scope of the city. The scene we just saw, like, they're talking about Chinese immigrants, they're talking about Irish immigrants, they're talking about native born, they're talking about like all of the like immigrants that they don't even know where they come from. They're talking about Roma people. Like, the whole melting pot is right there in New York, and all of the problems and all of the violence it caused. And of course, the most violent, the most appalling of all of the gangs is, of course, the gang that belongs to Bill the Butcher. That's 2 Daniel Day-Lewis movies about America, and the reason there's not 3 Daniel Day-Lewis movies about America in this grouping is because we stopped. We decided not to go like full-fledged into Civil War movies because we're going to get into Civil War movies eventually. But if it had been 3, Lincoln is a brilliant movie about what the United States is.
He could make 4 if you want to bring in There Will Be Blood.
Oh,
for American
God,
history.
yes.
So
yes, right.
Thank you, Ireland, for giving us American history movies via Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah, absolutely. So talk to us a little bit about Bill the Butcher and sort of this nativism streak in New York and in the country during this period in time.
So Bill the Butcher, there was a real person, and I guess he was a butcher and sort of ran these gangs, kind of like social clubs, more that would get violent. But the real thing is this character represents like this streak of nativism that you were talking about, and we start seeing political parties in this period, like third parties, not the Whigs and the Democrats as we talked about before, but sort of the know-nothings. There were this very strange anti-immigrant party. You and I talked earlier, Dave, like the anti-Masonic party. These.
But just real quick, Dan, the Know Nothings. Like, that's kind of a crazy ass name. Know Nothing. Why were they called the Know Nothing?
They were kind of, I guess, sort of secretive. I don't know a whole lot about them, but like, whenever you ask them about something, they wouldn't tell you.
They don't know anything other than they hate immigrants, I think was the gist of it.
It's a weird party. We talked about doing a third party episode. We should do
maybe
all the weird little political
election,
parties.
And we'll do like you said there was an anti-Masonic, there's a temperance party, there's there's all sorts of wild third parties here in the US. Dibs on the American Communist Party. Not the Communist Party of America, the American. Anyway.
So the Know Nothings were 1853 to 1856, so they were fairly short-lived. Their policy was no Roman Catholics and no immigrants.
That's it.
And they kind of considered themselves a secret society. They're also called the American Party, was like their official name, but it's
I mean, it's basically Donald Trump, right?
Right.
No, nothing.
I mean, it's
I know what I don't like. I know what I do like. God, I had so much bourbon.
But I mean, this is just a great movie, right? It's made so well, and I think it's
great movie.
It sort of gets rid of kind of like what we saw in Revolution. Like it starts to, the depictions are a little more honest of like what life was like even physically.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So. And
I think that the glass eye, the Bill the Butcher's glass eye is such. It is. I think from a visual standpoint, the decision to put a federal eagle as the eye, a lot of the federalist, like nationalist visuals here, like you don't get that. People forget that the U.S. has been beating its chest with these same visuals for years and years and years. Crumbs, I left it behind, but I do like. I do love that about this movie, that it gives you that sense of like, okay, I know these visuals. I understand where this is coming from. The other part of it is that it really gives the the clothes in this movie are great. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. Like the top hats and the casuals and that weird cap that Bill the Butcher pulls on. Like this movie is just, it has it all, and it's a really good depiction of, maybe not historically accurate. And I think we can basically say that if somebody's going to write a novel, make a movie, write a play, that it's never going to be historically accurate. Do a podcast. It's never going to be historically accurate. And so we just, but there's the entertainment can also, you can learn something from the entertainment. I think there's so much to learn from Gangs of New York. Brassy, you've seen this a dozen times as well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, sometimes it's a bit of an ask to live through this movie. It seems long, but sometimes it seems long. Like I'm going to get in big trouble here. I don't really get Cameron Diaz in this movie. I fully support the art direction, the costuming, the hair and makeup, the special effects, the practical effects. I was absolutely transported.
Yeah.
And then taken out when Cameron Diaz showed up.
So just in the defense of Cameron.
Good job of the draft riots, which we talked about earlier, right? Really showing
literally
the
way movies were there about draft riots.
None. And I like that I like the way they do it with the Telegraph and explaining what's going on. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Great scene. All right. So moving on from Gangs of New York, we move to the Great American West. And man, I've forgotten how much I love this movie.
Yeah.
So let's watch the official preview for Dances with Wolves.
Yeah.
Cavalry flag. I have that flag.
Actually, sir, I'm here at my own request. Why? I've always wanted to see the frontier.
That seems amazing.
You want to see the frontier? Yes, sir. Before it's gone.
There ain't nothing here, Lieutenant. Everybody's run off or got killed. What about Indians?
Brassy.
I get emotional in this movie, and I don't even care about Kevin Costner, but this movie gets me.
Yeah, it really has everything, including Graham Greene, who is just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting goosebumps being there.
So much.
Okay.
So one of the things why I love historical movies is the visuals and the soundtracks are always amazing, right?
Yeah, the soundtracks are pretty amazing, and this one in particular is just so beautiful. And Brass, of course, this movie, right? Like, what an incredible film. Like, talk to us. Why'd you pick it? I mean, it's kind of obvious, but like, what?
Well, because Mohicans was taken. Mohicans would have been my grab, but I do feel closer to this movie, probably because I saw it at a formative age as a teenager, and because of where I grew up in the Great Plains.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And because I was born in the Four Corners, right next to, but not on, a Ute reservation, I feel, I mean, for lack of better vocabulary, I feel extremely protective of leaving everything alone. And so leaving that culture alone, we literally almost decimated everything.
Yeah.
So this movie gets me right in the boo-boo because this was a white guy, arguably one of the top draws in box office time of that moment. This is a white guy saying, I'm having a crisis of consciousness with our country, and I want to go and ingratiate myself back to nature. He wants to return to become the nature boy. He's not born that way.
No.
He's like, you know what? This Calvary shit, let me just go to the West before it gets poisoned.
And the nature boy theme in the United States, strong. Right. We are a frontier nation. The outdoors, living off the land, it speaks to us. Right now it's a little nutty with survivalists and whack jobs, but all of that really speaks strongly to us. And I think it's worth noting that like two of our top choices here had important, powerful representations of Indigenous people. And I don't think that when we were kids and first saw that, it might have registered in the same way that it does. But I feel like now, like in retrospect, those performances added so much to these films that these films survive, and these films are our picks, and other films aren't. And to that point, even Revolution in its crappy glory has strong Indigenous presence with Graham Greene's performance in there. So yeah, Brass, like I think as all three of us being raised in Colorado, like the plains and all of those scenes of buffalo and nature, and even when they go into the mountains for refuge during the winter, I think all of those things really speak powerfully to us.
Yeah. Oh, for sure, absolutely. This is also one of my favorite movies.
Right. So. The way that the lead character kind of to give it an Eastern mythology, give it a little Indian mythology, it's like he's the Shiva laying down and letting Kali step on him. Like he doesn't impose his whiteness. He lays down and says, "What can you teach me? I'm a sponge."
Yeah.
And they're very like, "I don't know, man. You're kind of," and then they're like, "This guy's kind of funny. Look what he's doing. Can you believe this? What is he?" And then they really embrace him. And then he's like, I got some bad news. Where there's one of us.
More than the stars. Yeah.
That was so.
Yeah.
So can we also focus? I wanted to specifically pick this movie because of Maury Chaykin. Pardon if I've mispronounced him, but
who?
Maury Chaykin is the mayor that says what I hear right in the beginning of the trailer. He's like, "You want to go into the frontier?" And he goes, "Yes, I would."
Oh, holy shit! Hang on.
Yeah, right in the beginning.
This guy.
Man, that's Maury Chaykin.
Okay, so just a second. How crazy is it that without you telling me, I already had a picture of him ready to go?
I was going to send you a picture. I was afraid that you wouldn't. Yeah, I need to talk about this moment.
Yeah, so you talk to us about it, then Dan, you talk to us about it, because I think we've all got feelings about this scene.
I've got major feelings. I didn't really click with what character actor was until I absorbed this man's performance.
Yeah.
And it still haunts me to this day, the way he weirdly saluted and then went in and shot himself.
Mm-hmm.
I still think about this guy's weird, sweaty, nervous persona.
Didn't he himself too?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, okay, now why am I talking about this? This sent a message to me subtextually as a young person that being in the military for too long can have terrible consequences on your mentality, on your mental health. I have never seen, I've seen Vietnam movies where it was like, oh yeah, don't talk to him, don't bother him, he's a Vietnam vet. I have never seen the shock of war affect someone so wholly, completely affected, that the way he speaks, the way he interacts, and how he kind of self-abuses himself and just doesn't look like he's caring for himself at all. And then that weird, I'm telling you, that weird little
Yeah.
that gave
Right. It is.
Yeah.
It is such a scene. And Dan, immediately you saw it and you were just like, this scene, right?
Yeah, it's one of the best scenes, right? He's one of the best characters, and he's on screen for 3 minutes.
Maybe, yeah.
Right? But you know what, Brass, you bring that up. Like, I was just thinking, what is this guy's backstory? Like, this guy...
You wouldn't want it.
Was he in the Civil War and got, PTSD and they couldn't get rid of him, so they just sent him out there? Or did he want to be in the war, but he's so strange they wouldn't let him, so they sent him out there? What is this guy's deal?
Or he got sent out to the frontier, and the straddling of two worlds is so difficult to people's psyche that you either get that third eye and open yourself up to the experience of both, to that duality of man,
right?
Or you explode and your brain can't take it and you end yourself. And I think it's honestly, like, if we ever change the name of this podcast, or videocast or whatever the hell this is, we should change it to a little bit of both, because I do think that, like, with history, we're always finding that, yeah, it's not one or the other. It's probably a little bit of both. And I think that Brass, you're spot on about, like, the strains of a military position. And Dan, you're totally spot on about like what is this guy's backstory. But then as a story arc, as a tool of this hero's journey, we see that the frontier breaks lesser people.
Lesser people.
Lesser people. Not that the hero won't be broken by the frontier, but we know that the place he is entering, a lesser man cannot handle. It takes mental, like, strength and psychological and spiritual strength to enter this darkness. In the same way that we all enter our darkness, Joseph Campbell, in the same way that we enter this darkness, the place that we fear to go is the place where the treasure lies. And this man has straddled the place where he fears to go to the point where he hasn't taken that step, and it ends up killing him. So I think there's definitely a reason that this moment spoke to all three of us. The fact that all three of us, I was ready to bring the picture. Dan, the moment you saw that that part in the preview, you were like, this scene, and Brassy, you were just like, I'd like to bring this up right off the bat.
Right.
Like, talk about something that speaks fundamentally to all of us at our very bones. This scene, this actor, like, wow, like, just incredible. What's his name again, Brass?
Maury, Maury. Last name Chaykin, Chaykin.
And what else has he done?
Lord. Okay, I just happen to have his IMDb here. My Cousin Vinny, War Games. Let me go back to his very Entourage. Good Lord. Going back, maybe I'll go all the way up. Twins, Iron Eagle 2.
Wow.
Cold Comfort, which I always think of you when I see that movie, Alf.
Wow.
Cold Comfort Farm, right? Wasn't that?
Yeah.
Okay. Different movie. Sorry.
Yeah.
Wild Meatballs 3. Okay.
Classic. Not as good as Meatballs 1 and 2, but, you know, in the pantheon of Meatballs movies.
Right. Turk 182, which I love. Wow. Yeah, he's done a lot. He's jumped around a lot. Like is
he still around?
I'm afraid he's not.
Man. This is the kind of actor that we could totally get on the show.
He passed away in 2010.
Man, what a loss. What a loss. Yeah. Here's you, Maury. Like, what an incredible actor. And speaking of incredible actors, I do want to go back to our amazing Native American, Indigenous Oscar winner Wes Studi, and his performance in this. And again, it's that same rage, Indigenous rage. The Magua will eat your heart and wipe your seed. And he plays that once more in this. And I think also I do want to mention that the rage factor, whatever, like his portrayal of Geronimo later on also is worth noting, because he plays Geronimo not with the rage and indignation, but like as strong in this, but with a sense of political savviness and emotional range that I think like that really is a tribute to Wes Studi's talents. But this, I mean, his character in this, again, not a shock that he is in this movie, and he's in two of our favorite American history movies. Anything you want to say about Wes Studi in this movie? Other than, damn.
I mean, I feel as though I'm incapable of encompassing everything that he brings in this film. It's a lot to put on the shoulders of an actor of color.
It is.
To represent everything
right.
that you know historically about your tribal existence. Like, he shouldered the weight of all of these roles. He's basically our teacher. In the film, he embodies that kind of fatherly, kind of a little cold, but fatherly like, I'm interested in your development, but I'm also going to be kind of tough on you.
Sorry, I thought in this I thought he played the bad guy in this film as well.
Oh my God.
I thought Graham Greene was the good guy in this. Yeah. I don't remember, so I might be wrong. But I want to say that Graham Greene plays the soft, chuckly dad.
To me, Graham Greene is the warm dad. Like the come here and let me hug you. You did good today kind of dad. But
like next to Kevin Costner is Graham Greene right there. Let me find a picture of Graham Greene here. But yeah, and I think the important part of, like, the fact that you have two incredibly important Native American actors in one film is the lengths that they went to make sure that this movie like really resonated for folks as a Native American, like, friendly or Native American centric film.
Yeah, it was a bridge. This movie is kind of a bridge between white culture and we need to be reminded of what's happened here, told through the lens of white culture. But
and Dan, as like a Civil War movie, because this movie, all of it starts in the Civil War. Anything anything kind of strike you about like the experience of Civil War veterans having to move on to the frontier and fighting indigenous folks?
Well, I mean, it does a good job. That opening battle is intense, right? The Civil War battle. As far as like moving out onto the frontier, I mean, yeah, no, I don't really have. I can't really think of anything off the top of my head that does. I mean, other than I think more on like the terms of some of the officers that fought in the Civil War, and then use that brutality they learned there to just. Right, I'm not as like individual soldiers. I'm thinking more in like terms of officers and the brutality that they brought out with them once they transferred out to the West, right? After the war. Specifically Sheridan on top of my head, right?
Yeah, and I think, you know, like once we start talking Civil War movies, maybe we'll do a Westerns one like this where we talk about our favorite Westerns as well. Because I'm a big fan of the John Ford movies, mostly because they're just so like dopey, like testosterone. And they're beautifully shot and they're epic and stuff like that. But I do think that it's important that this film finally dealt with Plains Indians in a way that was human and realistic. And for those of us who come from, you know, the Rockies, the Plains, like we feel like an attachment to kind of how this was told.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, for me, like just the size. There is really like, have we all seen herds of buffalo?
One time in Estes Park.
Yeah. Once. How about you, Dan? Have you seen a herd?
No, I mean the only one that I know is the one the city of Denver owns. Up on
the one going over the pass
on Flint Hill.
Yeah.
Floyd Hill, not Flint Hill. Floyd Hill on I-70.
Yeah, on I-70.
Do you know what I'm talking about, Brass? The city of Denver owns a buffalo herd.
I'm not totally surprised. It tracks.
And they keep them. They keep them. If you're ever back and you're going over I-70, right outside of Denver on the top of the hill, like they're up there sometimes. It's crazy.
Right by Buffalo Bill's grave.
Yeah.
What a lovely thing to think about.
It's super. It's the herd's like really important because it was one of they've had it forever. It was one of the last herds, and they're very important for like the genetics of bringing back the buffalo. Yeah. It's an interesting story.
Yeah. So, and we definitely need to do Buffalo Bill, Wild Bill's Wild West show. Like we need to do like Wild West legends. I think that all of those folks are just like, whoa, man. And there's a lot to unwrap there. And also like how far back it's set these real interpretations, like Graham Greene and Wes Studi's interpretations of their own culture, and how we had to filter native cultures through the lens of white entertainers for such a long time. I think Dances with Wolves and Last of the Mohicans were the beginning of a real movement to try and at least correctly define those folks. So just an awesome film and an awesome grouping of people. Now for something completely different. Here we go.
Benjamin Franklin Gates, your undertaking the duty of the family Gates to find the most spectacular treasure in history. It grew throughout the ages and moved across continents until it was hidden by America's founding fathers, who left clues to the treasure's location right before our eyes. The unfinished pyramid, the all-seeing eye, are telling us something. Keeping this treasure safe, Benjamin, is your destiny.
You're treasure hunters, aren't you?
We're more like treasure protectors.
All his life, Benjamin Gates has searched for a treasure no one believed existed.
Don't you get it, Ben? The treasure's in it.
I refuse to believe that. But what he thought was the final clue, 100 years of searching up 3 feet away, is only the beginning.
The Declaration of Independence.
You think there's a treasure map on the back of the Declaration of Independence?
The map is invisible.
Why would we make this up?
Where's your proof?
We don't have it.
Did Bigfoot take it?
What about the map? Down and get out. Ian's gonna try to steal it. 90 seconds. The only way to protect the Declaration is to steal.
What?
I'm gonna steal the Declaration of Independence.
Ben?
Producer Jerry Brown and director John Turteltaub.
It is surrounded by guards, video monitors, and little kids on 8th grade field trip. And you live in a prison, you know that, right?
Yeah, probably.
Get out of there. Get out of there now.
The clues of 10 generations.
There's more to the riddle.
Reveal the mystery 20 centuries in the making.
Who wants to go down the creepy tunnel inside the tomb first?
Tell me what the next clue is.
What do you see?
Nicolas Cage. National Treasure.
Woo!
I begged you to talk me out of this.
No,
I
think, Brass, you brought this up jokingly, and I said, no, we should totally do this. And there's a reason for that. And I think that all of us, just even based on that preview, we can all kind of jump in on so many different things, so many important visuals, so many cues about the founding of the country. But Brass, I'm going to let you have first dibs on this as our champion of the esoteric and mystical.
Oh, wow. While I did appreciate that this film handles esoteric symbolism respectfully and kind of makes it like a much the way what was that stupid Dan Brown Da Vinci Code?
Yeah, see, perfect.
It
I was exactly in there too.
Has that kind of crossover potential. It's like, hey, look, if if you haven't looked at anything on your TV in years, but you're interested in Nicolas Cage one-liners, this movie's for you. But also, if you've been studying historical esoteric, the mystical colonialism of our founding fathers, and you don't mind Nicolas Cage, this movie is for you.
Exactly.
I think the pacing of this film was quite good. And the handling of them connecting the dots between the HMS, what was it? The HMS Bounty? What was that ship?
No, is it the Reliance? What's the desk?
Oh, the Resolute.
The Resolute.
Yeah, the Resolute.
I always appreciate a movie that takes you from a comfortable home space to we're in the Antarctic to we're underground under the White House where, and then now we're in what I thought was a Mayan temple, like the underground stonework in there was very much like Incan or Mayan or something like that. I respected the fact that they used these symbols appropriately, didn't make anything look like, and we eat babies. But anyway, back there was none of that crap. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I enjoy this film. I can let this run and work around it. You know what I mean? It's
a fun movie, and I think it's a lot of people's entryway into a lot of the sort of details about the founding of this country. And let me just say that if the founding fathers didn't want people to come up with random ass theories about the origins of this country, they wouldn't have been into so much creepy shit, and they wouldn't have put so many random symbols into this.
Yep.
And I think like this little piece here, this little kind of like fanfic visual kind of shows like in this country, you know, I used to have the all-seeing eye behind me, right?
Yeah.
We have so much Masonic imagery embedded into the founding of this country that it gives us plenty of fodder to come up with all sorts of conspiracy theories about where this country came from, what it's founded on, what the deal is. Like you said, eating babies, like, I don't know, man, eating babies. You know, like that's the point of, I think that's why National Treasure kind of speaks to us. And that's why it was kind of a weird runaway hit for Disney, because nobody expected it to do as well as it did. Certainly not Nick Cage, who gave it a kind of a half-assed performance. But ultimately, like, it ended up being a hit, and they made two more sequels. And the reason for it is because it has visuals and it has information that speaks to us as a country. And nothing says more than just the movie poster. My God, the pyramid with the eye on top of it. Does it get any more mystical than this? What the hell does this mean anyway?
Dan, do you know about this? Do you know
eye?
Yeah, the Eye of Providence?
No, I don't. I mean, it's just...
Yeah.
No. Can you tell us about the eye?
I will tell you. Provenance. So certain, not all, secret societies, some, just have a requirement that you acknowledge a maker.
Mm-hmm.
That maker can take any form. They don't mind if it's Muhammad. They don't mind if it's Moses. They don't mind if it's Jesus, so long as you acknowledge what they call the architect.
The architect, okay.
Of everything.
Got it. Okay.
So this is
just random societies who are into architects. Gotcha.
So this Eye of Providence is a shorthand code for acknowledging the architect.
Mm-hmm.
And that being the top, as we come down more into material matter, into the foundation and the base of the pyramid, that's our mundane world in another kind of shorthand term. We're the people at the bottom of the pyramid, and the goal is to get up to the top. You will be, you'll be faced with dilemma. You will have to make heart-stopping, life-changing decisions. You will have to show no fear.
Feeling Declaration of Independence.
Yes, and one would also maybe argue that you're going to be shown false information, and you have to have the clarity and the discernment finely tuned enough to know how to read that false information, eschew it, and go for the truth. To call back one of our favorites, Indiana Jones. When Indiana Jones says, I have to choose the cup of a carpenter, that's another way of saying that to me is there's a message of that in National Treasures. You're going to be faced with lots of beautiful options, but if you think closely, what would the cup of a carpenter look like?
Right.
That discernment that Indy shows in a very high stakes situation, he's got that, I know what it is, and he saves his life. So I don't ever think Nicolas Cage has that kind of discernment, but it's fun to see him go for it. The supporting cast on this show is really doing a lot of heavy legwork. Christopher Plummer.
Yeah, I mean, amazing. Yeah.
Sean Bean. Trevelyan. I always call him Trevelyan, and then I remember his name is Sean Bean.
So I think we're all skirting around Masonic imagery here, because the Freemasons, like many of our founding fathers, were Freemasons.
Yes,
and that's why all of these visuals are hidden.
They're puzzle pieces.
I mean, I gotta say, like hidden. They're not really well hidden.
No,
Like they're not the obelisks and Masonic symbols and the pyramid. It's not hidden. It doesn't take a fucking genius to go like, oh my god, that's a Masonic symbol in the middle of Washington D.C. Like, but Dan, the fact that most of the founding fathers were Freemasons has been problematic for a long time.
Yeah,
it gives way to conspiracy theories,
right.
And conspiracy theories are as American as apple pie.
Yes.
Right. And then the whole anti-Masonic Party, American conspiracies. And really, the reason that the Masons symbols are on a lot of things is because at that time there wasn't a lot of public funds. And they paid for things. And so they wanted their stuff on it.
Sponsored by your local Scottish Rite Masonic.
Yeah.
The Masons helped pay for part of the Capitol, right? Like that's why there's a Masonic symbol on the Capitol.
Interesting.
So it's fun. Sorry, I had people, like I told you guys, people used to come ask me about this movie and the Dan Brown crap when I worked in the Capitol, and it's just like, okay.
I'm sorry.
Sure, let's go look at it.
What would they ask you?
Just wanting to see the things like that are mentioned. I think they talk more about the Capitol in the Dan Brown books, don't they, than they do this?
I think so.
Yeah, stuff like that. But then, the way that the streets in Washington, D.C. line up, and they're like, see, it's a Masonic symbol. Or that's just the way straight lines work when you intersect them.
Before Washington, D.C. got sliced off on the river, and that part of the river, everything went to Maryland or something, or Virginia. Washington, D.C. was a perfect diamond.
Right. It's 10 by 10.
Perfect.
It's a 10 by 10 diamond.
That's not an accident. But then we shared a little bit of that diamond with the next state over.
So, and what was the guy's name that the architect
Pierre
of DC?
Lafont.
Yeah, and he was amazing.
Pierre Lafont. Yeah, they're all Masons. That was what you did. That's how you got jobs.
So the secret society portion of this made people mad, made people distrustful. They're like, how come you're so exclusionary? Why can't you just show me? Why can't you just tell me? What's so wrong with it? Well, there must be something wrong with it if you're not showing me. Well, frankly, you don't have the temperament or, again, the discernment to not make a fool of yourself if this were be revealed to you. So
the Masons are not very secretive. They have pancake breakfasts and they'll take you upstairs.
No, they're not. They're not trying to operate.
And I went to a Mason's pancake breakfast where it was basically like a recruiting tool, and the best little anecdote about Dan and Alf's Masonic adventure.
Oh God.
The guy that was giving us the tour, he's like, yeah, there's no religious requirements for this. He looks at Dan and he's like, you can be Christian or Catholic. He looks at me and he's like, or Muslim?
Yeah.
Jewish?
It was the break between just looking at Alf. Just Muslim, Jewish.
You don't know. I'm so sorry.
I mean, whatever. But trust me, the Masonic pancake breakfast was one of the places I expected the othering. I certainly didn't think I was going into a space of mi gente, So no need to hand wring or pearl clutch around that.
It was a fun little adventure.
I knew what I was getting into. It was a fun excursion. We're 100% going to do secret societies on here, maybe a dozen times. We'll pick every here we come. But I do think that the founding of this country, it's because it was so personality based, and it's such a weird time. The Enlightenment and the Rococo and all of the kind of different pieces that made this country. Like, I think that National Treasure is a great example of how that weirdness lives on. And U.S. and America, I'm sorry to break it to you, you're fucking weird. and you were founded weird, and the things you do and the things you're into, they're not normal by any account, by Eastern or Western accounts, which is why we're in this problem that we're in right now with COVID, because other countries that aren't trying to prove something to someone, they basically go like, okay, it's a disease, we're a country, we're all going to get this together, we're going to go through this moment, and then we're going to come out of it. In this country, we could not put it together. We could not. And that is partially because our founding fathers were weirdos who put symbols everywhere that made us feel like, whoa, 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 what's going on here? There's got to be something else going on. And so we tend to have this idea that maybe we're not getting the full picture from our government if they're putting weird pyramids with third eyes on them. So
Right.
I got my own idea of what's going on. And let me tell you, it was formed off of a YouTube video. So National Treasure 100% falls into American history film and how we view our country. And I think from a sense, Grass, like it hit on something a little bit like we talked on these sort of lofty ideas of how Indigenous people are treated, how the Revolutionary War was viewed and portrayed in a way to help folks during times of crisis. But this taps into the kind of weirdness that we still have to live with and that affects us on a day-to-day basis, which is why I was just like, let's go for it. Let's do National Treasure. So I'm really pumped. So let's take this moment and talk, do a little show and tell. Do we have any 4th of July show and tell, or do we just want to go into our finale here? Dan, what you got?
I don't have a 4th of July show. Do I? No. You know what? I don't have any 4th of July show and tell.
Oh, good. Because
Sorry.
No. You know what's coming out on Disney Plus? Hamilton.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Have you guys seen or heard Hamilton?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
You have, and you would.
I
Dan.
would love it, but I haven't.
I've never even heard it. And I haven't
It's
heard
really
it
good.
because
I had a very good friend from high school that was in the Chicago cast as Aaron Burr. Burr.
Ooh.
Wow.
Greg Trico. Alf, I think you know Greg, don't you?
Yeah, I met him. Yeah.
Yeah. He was in the Chicago cast. It was fun. He took Sarah and I backstage, showed us the whole setup. It was very cool.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was.
So that's coming out, and as a historical representation of, so that's your show and tell, Hamilton,
Yep.
As a historical representation of Revolutionary War history. I'm bourbon in, by the way. Like my loosey goosiness is definitely because I've had 2 of these. But how do you see it as an interpretation of American history, Dan?
It's a musical, so I mean, I honestly I don't know. I haven't read the biography, so I don't know a whole bunch about it. But I like its message a lot, and what it says and how it treats people. I think it's a really good show.
Do you see it kind of as a Sons of Liberty kind of same style where it's making a connection to
Yeah. So look, there's my show and tell.
Oh, look at y'all! Yeah, that's incredible.
That's Greg and that's Hamilton, right there. There we
Yeah.
are.
So cool.
I think it's worth mentioning that Hamilton was written, conceived, dreamt, and produced by a Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Lin-Manuel is a genius, right? Like,
yeah.
How do you read a Ron Chernow biography and you're like, this would be a great hip hop musical?
Look, he had the vision.
And I gotta say, you guys, like, I don't know if you guys have seen the second Mary Poppins.
No.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
the first Mary Poppins I loved as a kid. Still love it. Still love that Mary Poppins. Like, I don't care what anybody says about Dick Van Dyke's accent. like, as far as I'm concerned, all Cockney should sound like Dick Van Dyke, because there's nothing wrong with Mary Poppins as a movie. And I loved it as a kid, right? But as a Latino kid, you don't always see yourself in that world of Mary Poppins. You're kind of excluded from it, right? Like, it's very British, it's very white, no room for you. And I have to say that, again, say what you will about Lin-Manuel's accent, but watching the new Mary Poppins and seeing the new, like, Lampy, the new chimney sweep, being a Puerto Rican guy, it got me in the feels, and I got, like, kind of teary-eyed. I was just like, oh my God, I'm no longer excluded from the Mary Poppins world. And it felt good, I have to say. And I haven't seen it, and I'm officially waiting to see Hamilton or listen to Hamilton. Like, I didn't listen to Hamilton because I just wanted to watch it pure in the theaters, and I just haven't gotten around to it. And now I'm actually going to see it, like, for the first time, listen to it for the first time on Disney Plus, and I'm super excited to do that. And, you know, like, cool, bring it on.
Yeah.
I want to feel like I'm part of the story.
It was amazing. I didn't listen to it either before we went and saw it.
Cool.
And it was like jaw dropping as soon as it starts.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Just in it.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
On the other end of the spectrum, I wanted to throw in my 2 cents about the pre-revolutionary era that we started with Mohican.
Yeah.
I haven't read the books, but one of the greatest adaptations of Poldark from, oh God, who wrote this? Winston Graham, the Poldark series. It explores a soldier sent from England, or from Wales. He was a Welsh guy, sent to the Americas, fought, was injured, was rescued, was sent back home, and just kind of dropped on his ass and said, okay, this is where the military leaves you. Good luck with everything. And then he makes a life, and he makes an amazing life. But he also Poldark.
Yeah,
Please watch Aidan Turner version of that, the modern version of it, not the 70s version. They did a mini series in the 70s of Poldark. But watch the modern one, BBC.
Okay,
it's pretty good.
Ooh, Aidan Turner. But have you seen it, Dan?
I haven't watched the whole thing, but I've watched a couple episodes. It's good.
I'm so in love with Wales now. I won't have in this house. We don't accept any Welsh backtalk. If we are pro Welsh in this house now, because Poldark was such a good, eye-opening experience for me. No slander of Welsh in this house. Poldark.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
And I do think and it's funny because we all are kind of drawn to these entertainment bits that, like, I just want to give a moment to give a little shout out here to Hamilton. So I believe it goes live on Disney Plus in a few days.
Like the 3rd, I thought.
Yeah. So they really they thought about this. I'm sure it was going to be released in the theaters, but, you know, COVID. So I'm excited to see it, and I'm excited, like, just seeing black faces in Revolutionary War garb is so freaking important. It like I said, like you feel like you're part of the story.
Queer Eye season 4 has that as well. Karamo.
Oh, that's right. I've been watching it. I've been watching Queer Eye season 4.
Karamo looks far too good in that outfit. It's not right.
It's in
Karamo can rock that look.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree with you. Seeing representation. Oh, there he is, Mr. Poldark, Master Poldark. Oof.
I feel like a lot of the cinema of American history and a lot of historical drama has to have a little woof. For the lady.
Bodice ripping going on here. Trust.
Yeah. A lot of bodice ripping.
Oh,
amazing. So we've got Hamilton and we've got Poldark. I'm gonna leave us with what I think is like, this is a way that my brother and myself, this is I think one of the biggest ways of shaping American history. Like, it had a big influence on us. And that is the musical 1776.
Yes.
God, we threatened to do this musical at UNC, didn't we?
I offered my services.
It's so good. I saw this at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C., where Lincoln was assassinated.
Oh my God.
It was America on top of America. It was fantastic.
Wow.
I think so for all of the technicolor musicalness of this, and I mean, we have gorgeous people playing the founding fathers. Like literally, like the guy who plays Thomas Jefferson is 12 feet tall, redhead muscle, and his wife is beautiful, just stunning. And the guy who plays Ben Franklin looks like what you would dream Ben Franklin looks like, because Ben Franklin was actually kind of like a froggy, pockmarked, balding guy. But the guy who plays it in this movie is the dream version of Ben Franklin, which is not froggy and not pockmarked,
right?
Just balding and hilarious.
And John Adams is this handsome guy,
right? John Adams
is like 5'4" and 200 and some pounds.
Yeah, John Adams was bald, 5'4", like not like tubby.
Yeah, they called him rotundness.
Played here by William Daniels, who is an amazing actor and amazing fighter for progressive causes, might I add. Just a side note on 1776. 1776 was performed in its entirety in the Nixon White House, and the Nixon team asked them to not do the conservatives minuet from this musical, which basically like admonishes the conservatives in the Continental Congress for not wanting to move ahead. And William Daniels refused to perform if it wasn't the entire thing. And the Nixon White House accepted the entire piece, and they performed 1776 as a command performance for White House staff and friends and family, for Richard Nixon inside the White House, a toned-down version of it. And William Daniels, my brother and I met him at a book signing a long time ago. He is John Adams. He is a grouchy, curmudgeonly Mr. Feeney. He is that character. And
the voice of Kit the car in Knight Rider.
He was the voice of Kit the car in Knight Rider. And I just think 1776 is one of those films that captures both the dream version of the Declaration of Independence and enough of the reality, and puts it to song, for God's sakes, puts it to song, and comes out with an honest wish for what we hope this country was and can be. I'm getting a little teary-eyed about it.
But isn't there the some productions have cut the song about slavery?
Right.
Okay.
They don't want to deal with it. You know what version I wish I would have seen of this is the revival in the late 90s with Data from Star Trek.
I saw that.
Oh, was it good?
Yes, it was awesome. It was awesome. It was Data from Star Trek playing John Adams, and Commissioner Gordon from the Tim Burton Batman movies playing Benjamin Franklin, and he's missing fingers too. Just so you know, that's
right.
But anyway, but all set aside, and all respect to Brent Spiner as John Adams, this version and this moment, like nothing will overcome it. I do want to say one important thing about 1776, the musical, is that it introduced me to the notion, very much like right now, that our founding fathers were wasted.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So this movie introduced me to the notion of rum rations in Congress.
Right.
And how many pints of rum people were allowed to have during a session of Congress. Think about what a pint of rum would do to you, and think of several pints of rum, and then think building a country while you're in that.
Also imagine how hot it was.
Yes, and they talk about that in this.
Right.
Flies, heat, rum.
Humidity on the East Coast is not for me.
Yeah, no, for
Sorry,
sure.
everybody. I can't do that. Look at this hair. But not just that, but I love rum. It's no secret. But the hangover.
Yeah.
The sugar hangover of too much rum makes me want to
Tiki hangovers are rough.
just pull my head off. It's so bad. So here are the people that we're entrusting with the development of our baby nation.
So I think so 1776 will forever have a really soft spot in my heart. I think William Daniels' performance here speaks, the way he performed it speaks, William Daniels was also in Reds, and he had a small part, and at that point he was a big enough actor that he did not have to take a small part in Reds, but he did anyway, and I think that's a statement. That's a value statement. I think William Daniels has, like, the way he stood up to the Nixon administration around this. I think that a lot of this, I think that a lot of those values that William Daniels as a performer had, and very much in the same way Lin-Manuel's values show off in Hamilton, I think they come across in 1776. And the beauty of it is that it's those values on top of technicolor romantic version of the Declaration of Independence, on top of a musical, make it a unique piece in the pantheon of representation of the American Revolution on film. And I highly recommend. Turner Classic Movies will be showing it on the 4th of July. So if you have TCM, tune in with your family, tune in with your kids. It's a fun way of learning about history. It is not significantly inaccurate in a way that I would say caution, right? In the same way that you might say that about other films. And it gives you like a really good feeling. It's a great 4th of July film. So that's my show and tell. So great show tonight. Remember, next week, no show because I'm moving and we have a holiday, and everybody have a really nice time. And then we will come back le prochain weekend avec la Révolution française. Et spécifiquement, Marie-Antoinette.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we're gonna dive deep into Marie Antoinette because we love royalty who doesn't know what the hell is happening until it's too late and their heads come off. And we did that with Charles, and I think Marie Antoinette at that point in time, I think it's going to be a fun episode to have. So we're just going to play a little bit of 1776 here. John Adams running down, being ready to go, and he's admonishing Congress for not taking action on independence. And this is America. This is my America. Action.
Right.
I have come to the conclusion that one useless man is called a disgrace, that two are called a law firm, and that three or more become a Congress. And by God, I have had this Congress. For 10 years, King George and his Parliament have gulled, cullied, and diddled these colonies with their illegal taxes. Stamp Acts, Townsend Acts, Sugar Acts, Tea Acts. And when we dared stand up like men, they have stopped our trade, seized our ships, blockaded our ports, burned our
They do a pretty good job of setting up Independence Hall. Right?
And still, this Congress refuses to
Like
grant any
the tables are set up like that with the green
even so much as courtesy of the
color of the walls is that
good God, what the hell are you waiting for?
Good job.
Say, listen to me.
listen to me and forget the window. I say, oh yes, oh yes, for independence. I say, oh yes, for independence. Oh yes, oh yes. Good God, consider yourselves fortunate that you have John Adams to abuse, for no sane man would tolerate it. I say, oh yes, oh yes, for independence. I say, oh yes, for independence. Will someone shut that man up? Never! Never!
Amazing. Bye, guys.
See ya.
Bye bye.